Welcome along, everyone. Saturday in Singapore, it's qualifying day where for this 3.06 mile circuit, and yesterday not every single team could claim that they'd found the right balance.
But there's only so much that you can do with the setup once you're here, Crofty, because so many of the cars, or all of the cars, will have a fundamental design locked into it. And they don't specifically target any track on the calendar for that locked-in performance to be there and perform. It just can naturally happen. Some teams will just naturally go better on a track like this, like Ferrari. We've seen them all season long having a car that's good in slow speed. It looks like they can naturally run their car a little bit higher in ride height than others, and it's still, that's its optimum place to run. Other cars need to get the performance from running the car lower down on the ground. We've seen this all the way through this current crop of this new generation of F1 car philosophy with the ground effects. But we've seen some teams try different philosophies, locking that into their design from word go and revert back on that for the next year. So this is just one of those circuits that will benefit some teams with that natural performance in slow speed corners with a lot of bumps.
Also, and talking of the bumps and the curbs as well, you don't want to be too stiff in the suspension, because that's not great for the curbs, but you also don't want to be too soft either. Makes you compliant over the curbs, but you lose the aerodynamic effect a little bit. And I know it sounds really, really silly, given that we're 88 miles north of the equator and it is sticky as sticky could be. It is really, really hot and oppressive and humid. Getting heat into the tyres is not the easiest thing on what is actually quite a smooth surface compared to your usual racetracks. And I think yesterday, both Mercedes and Red Bull, if they were going to be brutally honest about it, getting the tyre temperature right was their Achilles wheel, shall we say.
Oh, very good. It's natural around this circuit that it's very busy. Even though it's quite a long track, it's very busy, lots of tight corners. You can come out of a corner and see a car just parked in front of you, blind corners in amongst the walls and the high-rise buildings as well. So I think if you struggle to prepare your outlap, especially in the night, like it was in FP2, and it will be therefore in qualifying as well, that was the most relevant session for qualifying. If you struggle to prepare your tyres in the exact way you want, you're not going to have the performance you want when you open it up on the first flying lap, or the only flying lap that tyre will deliver on.
So they had FP2, which was run at the same time pretty much as qualifying and the race, and now we go back to daylight, under the lights, here in Singapore, where the track temperature is 37 degrees, which is about 5 or 6 degrees hotter than it's going to be when we go qualifying. So all those changes that have been made overnight at the likes of Mercedes and Red Bull, they're keeping their fingers crossed still that they're going to work when they need them to work, and they might not know for sure if they're going to work in this session because the conditions are so different.
Absolutely spot on. It's having the confidence as the team, as a driver right now, to try to feel what you've put into the car in terms of setup from last night's work on the simulation, to then almost ignore some of the downsides to that for the focus on when it gets dark again and the track temp falls again later on for qualifying.
So you'll notice that there are not one, not two, but three people in the world's smallest commentary box as we all huddle together, which is not the nicest thing in the planet when it comes to Singapore, because I can feel the heat radiating off Nico Rosberg as I speak, because he's just bolted from the paddock into the commentary box here. Nico, glad you're with us. We're looking at the Red Bull. Did their lack of pace surprise you yesterday?
Yeah, pleasure to be here again. Crofty, we shouldn't be complaining. We have the aircon right on us. It's pretty
but
awesome.
We can feel the warmth coming off you. You're like a Pirelli tyre that's just done a qualifying session.
So, yes, you were speaking about Max Verstappen there. There is stress there. I mean, they are under pressure. That car was going nowhere yesterday. Max was saying he's driving like in a Rolls Royce. There's no grip in that car. He struggled to get into the top 10. I mean, seriously. He can really lose the World Championship if it continues like that, you know? So it's really big pressure. I know that they changed the car a lot going into today. So what they've done is made it mechanically a lot stiffer. It's always that trade-off, you know, mechanically softer to swallow the bumps, but then the aero works less good. And then you go stiffer, the aero works better, but it's worse over the bumps. Big trade-off. And as you said, and also you just don't really know where the optimum is for the car from track to track, and so that's why they're trying that today.
One thing I want to pick your brains on, Nico, is freewheeling. It's something I never really experienced in an F1 car back when I drove them, but I know you would have. It was a thing. We hear drivers talk about this, and it's linked in, isn't it, to the setup of your car and the stiffness, the softness, the roll of the car. Just explain in simple terms why that's a problem for the drivers when they talk about freewheeling.
Yeah, so the worst about freewheeling is, so as you're going to the corner, your car obviously rolls to the outside, and the first thing that it will pick up is the inside front. And the worst thing about that is it disturbs the aerodynamics massively as that tire disconnects from the ground, because the aerodynamics are developed with the tire that's connected to the ground and the airflow, you know, and the front tire has a huge impact in terms of airflow on the overall aerodynamics. When that comes off the ground, suddenly you got airflow under the tire. It really influences very badly the aerodynamics, and that's the main reason that you want to stop that. And the way to stop that is by mechanically going very, very soft on the front, or also, of course, adding some front load aerodynamically. And it's as you can hear, and it's very, very challenging to get all of those different elements right so that your car performs optimally.
Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso heading out onto the track. 161st start in Formula One this weekend for Lance Stroll, assuming he does start the race. He missed it, of course, last year here in Singapore. Equals Ayrton Senna and Mika Häkkinen in the list of all-time starts in Formula One. Let's head down to the pit lane, a man who remembers the days of Mika Häkkinen, because he was probably patrolling the pit lane then, our veteran reporter, Ted Kravitz.
Thank you very much, Crofty. Yes, hello, Anthony and Nico and everybody. Welcome to the pit lane, where the sun is still yet to set, so pretty bright down here in the pit lane. I think that reflects why we're seeing so few cars go out on track. Aston Martin, both their drivers were in the car at least 5 or 6 minutes before the start of the session, Crofty, when the...
Ted, just hang on 2 seconds.
I know, they conked out.
No, but there's a lizard on the track.
Ah, great! We haven't had one so far.
Yeah, well, we haven't seen one so far, but do you remember last year, Larry the Lizard?
Of course.
Came a cropper, and who was on track when Larry the Lizard walked across the track for the last time? Fernando Alonso.
Let's look at...
You need to go and see Larry, make sure he's safe. We'll come back to you in 2 seconds. Nico, talk us through.
Yeah, let's look at this fascinating explanation on the car performances. So from the beginning of the season to Monza, although Monza is probably not very representative because it's such an extreme car setup required for there, but you can just see how McLaren has leapfrogged everybody. What is this relevant to, though? Tell me, help me out here.
Well, it's Bahrain to Monza. McLaren improving by 3/10.
Yeah, but relevant to who?
Well, Red Bull have lost 3/10. McLaren have taken over as the fastest car.
Okay.
Red Bull were the fastest car. They've lost 3/10. McLaren have got 3/10. And there's your swing right there. And it shows you Aston Martin have lost half a second in terms of performance. Sauber have improved, but they're still rock bottom in the championship. And it's a very good indication of who's hot and who's not at the moment.
I think maybe, I mean, this graphic, great, don't get me wrong, but I think a more valuable graphic would be to make one about who has improved compared to where they were this time last year on each track, and then amalgamate that to see who's made the most progress in their own individual car from where they were last year.
Lionel the Lizard is still making his way, I think, towards turn 16. Ted, we'll head back down to you. Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll are still on the circuit, but no one else is coming out just yet.
So now I've actually managed to see a monitor, forgive the pun.
Very good.
Monitor lizard, and that looks quite scary, actually. It looks like it's doing the floss that particular lizard. Looks like it's doing some kind of dance. Anyway, listen, back to the cars. So you've covered Red Bull, you've covered in a little bit of trouble, but can they save the rest of their weekend? You've covered Ferrari, looking good. Covered McLaren, ditto, also looking good. Mercedes, can I update you on what's going there? You heard Lewis Hamilton earlier in the show, a little bit lost. At this pace, we're not going to make it into Q3, he said. George Russell, a lot of work on our hands, and I'm seeing a bit of a different Mercedes in the garage. They've just finished some work on Hamilton's car, putting some weight in the front of his car, and their test and reserve driver and Formula 2 driver, the Danish driver Frederik Vesti, has been all night in the simulator. So it's been up to Fred, the Danish driver, to save their bacon. I know he's done that before, but the last time he did this, do you remember, Crofty? It was a few races ago. Mercedes had a bad Friday. Fred Vesti spent all night in the simulator and really did a fantastic job and turned it round. So it's certainly what hoping George and Lewis will be hoping is the same thing today, but they're yet to go out.
Lewis saying yesterday that on the performance of Friday, they're not going to make it into Q3.
Yeah, I also think what Fred Vesti is going to be able to do in the simulator is limited, because the simulator is only as good as the data that you put into it, you know, and the problem is in the wind tunnel, you just have the car in such a static state. With even when it rolls in the wind tunnel, it's just a static state. And so it's such an unknown how much aero actually is lost as the car starts to oscillate and bounce, as the car starts to roll much more. And that's not plugged into the simulator numbers. So the simulator can only do as well as the data from the wind tunnel, which is just not accurate in terms of the real life, what's happening on the track.
Because the wind tunnel is just another simulation. So yeah, it's only when you put the car on the track, and that is in testing. That's why you've got so many extra sensors on board, because it's pulling information from the car all the time to send back to the wind tunnel for future updates. But yeah, like Nico says, there are always going to be limitations to how far you can yaw the wind tunnel, the car, the model inside the wind tunnel, how the car moves over bumps, and that's why you have different systems in place, like the 7-poster rigs, for example, where you give the car a real workout in the bumps. They're trying to put all that data together, but individually, whereas the real car obviously doing that all as one on the track.
Out of interest, how many late nights did you have making sure Nico Rosberg could win the 2016 World Championship?
Loads. He owes it all to me, I think. That's it.
I haven't offered you a beer for that yet, so that still remains to be done.
All part and parcel of being a sim driver. It's fun, you know, working on the cars that you're trying to correlate to what these guys are feeling here. Is he going to avoid it this time?
He is. See, that line always made it from turn 16, 17 to
So we
18.
are told the track is clear, but just have a look for the lizard.
Oh, it's in the middle of the track.
It thinks it's an Aston Martin. It's like it's attracted to the Aston Martin, isn't it? It's a similar colour.
That is a stride, that is. Yeah, honestly, that is a stride with the purpose of Lawrence Stroll, quite frankly. So maybe it's Lawrence, the lizard, that's going across the track there. And I'm not surprised they've red flagged this session. They are a protected animal. And with that in mind, and also the fact that Lawrence doesn't want to go anywhere that's not on the track at the moment, I actually think this is a really sensible decision. Now, whether there is anyone on hand that can come and help Lawrence to a more safe place, I have no idea. We've got some great marshals here in Singapore, some great people that run this racetrack, but whether, Nico, there is a official lizard remover, I have no idea.
Can I go from Lawrence the Lizard to Lawrence Stroll?
Yeah, well, I
mean, I know it's been talked up and down so much, but what a genius move of his to get Adrian Newey, right?
Absolutely.
To the team. I mean, and to get him then as soon as he arrives, which is not yet, obviously, but when he arrives straight on the 2026 car, which is the new regulation car, that's an incredible move. What is the latest insider on that? Why has Adrian decided to do that? How much money did he get? Did he get equity in the team? Does he own part of the team?
It's always about money with you, isn't it? Did he get equity in the team?
Does he own part of the team?
Did you get equity in Alpine? There we go. Oh, no, we didn't.
Oh, Lawrence is rapid.
Catch the lizard, catch the lizard.
Very smart.
I tell you what, he's got a purposeful stroll, but when he wants to get a shift on, look at that. Look at the pace of that. It's a drag race. Marshall against Lizard. Daniel Ricciardo's smiling. And I'm not surprised. This I've never seen before. Marshall chases Lizard.
He would have outbraked it.
I hope he doesn't hurt him.
No, well, he's trying to pick him up so that he doesn't get hurt.
I wonder if Lawrence bites when he's unhappy.
Well, he's probably a little bit scared, bless his heart, but we're trying to do the right thing here. Yes, Adrian Newey has got equity in the team because he is managing partner.
How much?
Technical.
And you know what the question then is?
Like that.
And you know who did the deal? It's Eddie Jordan. So how much equity does Eddie Jordan have in the team now? Because usually it's 20%.
Look, I don't know officially.
Of what Adrian Newey
No
gets.
one's told me officially, but I think it's about 2%.
2%.
In the F1 team.
That's similar to what Paddy Lowe got at the time when he went to Williams. So when Williams took him from Mercedes, he also got a certain percentage in that range.
Okay, so that would be in the right ballpark there. Here's a question for you.
2% is a lot, by the way, because that's, I mean, that team is valued at 1.6 billion.
Exactly, given the current value of Formula One.
And it's only going to go up.
Correct.
So that 2% is going to be well north of 50 million very soon as well, which is very substantial.
Isn't it?
How his brain works.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So maybe I really should have answered that email. We've got a session resuming in about a minute's time, just to let you know.
Studied more in aerodynamics.
Here's a serious question, though. Yeah, Adrian Newey goes to Aston Martin, the best designer of a Formula One car ever. Of that, there is no doubt. New CEO Andy Cowell arrives. You know what Andy Cowell's capable of. He gave you a rocket ship engine that you won a world title in. So at the top, two great people in charge. To try and turn a team that have been good and have punched above their weight as Force India, have had moments as Aston Martin that have been successful, but not as many moments as they should. How difficult is it to turn them into a consistent winning machine, even if you've got Andy Cowell and Adrian Newey?
Look at Paris Saint-Germain, in soccer. They had, who do they have? Messi, Neymar, and who's the French striker?
Kylian Mbappe.
Mbappe.
Yeah.
Wasn't it all three of those at the same time, I believe?
They might have done. And
so
all the money that they could wish for.
The three best soccer players of all time, and all the others were the best as well. And they never won the Champions League, because, of course, it's great to bring the greatest geniuses, the best managers on board. However, they still need to then gel, work together optimally, because you're only as good as the whole team collaborates, essentially. Also, Adrian Newey on his own is not going to be able to make that car a world championship winning car. He needs the rest of the team. Of course, he can give them a good direction. He can give a very good guidance. He still needs the team to excel, with him. And so that remains to be seen. And that's going to be a challenge, definitely, for them to integrate and make that into a family that is all pulling in the same direction. Remains to be seen.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree, Nick. There's not one person in the team that has a higher value than the collective of all of those brains together working as one. And you just have to look at McLaren as an example of that. They haven't had a huge turnover of staff coming and going. They've pretty much kept the same members of the team, and the performance has grown with that same team working together. So it's not like it's down to one individual that's turned that team around. It's just working better. People are working closer together. They're on the right path, and look at the results. They speak for themselves.
Right, we got action back on the track again. And thankfully, Lawrence has been escorted to a safer place whilst Valtteri Bottas prepares for a lap.
One more thing, though. I do my podcast occasionally, which I haven't done in a long, long time, but I would love to have Adrian on there explaining to me how he uses the drawing board and does better than all the compute in the world of F1 and all the other engineers.
Because he sees things differently to everyone else.
On the drawing board, like, how is that even possible?
Well, but you can draw and then scan it in, and then it gets into the computers there. But Adrian Newey has a vision, and he sees things, and that's why he is the greatest designer out there. Should we ask him if he wants to come on your podcast, if you want to get it going? Tell you what, how about Adrian Newey on the Sky F1 podcast with yourself and TV's Matt Baker? That would work.
Can I...
He's doing the numbers in his head.
Can I prefer my podcast?
No, not when you're working for us for the weekend.
Okay, sorry. Okay. We'll talk about it after the weekend.
Other podcasts are available, but not when you're working for us, mate. Right, here's Valtteri Bottas making his way through the streets of Singapore. He's always on the lookout for an opportunity, isn't he? It's outrageous. Over the Anderson Bridge he goes, onto the Esplanade. And why have we only got one bit of track resurfaced there? Why haven't they resurfaced the whole corner?
I don't know the reason for it, Crofty, but Yeah, I'm sure it comes down to a bit of budget. Maybe they felt the outside of the track was in perfect order. But yeah, this circuit has been resurfaced in many parts, and a lot of it, like this part here, the whole strip's been resurfaced. And here we go into turn 16 and then 17, on board with Bottas, who still hangs on to that fastest middle sector before the final 2 corners of 18 there. Flat out through 19, up through the gears and back onto the main straight. And this is an older part of the track.
A 1:34.5 for Valtteri Bottas. We were into the 1:30s yesterday. We're not going to see times as low as that until we get to qualifying a little bit later on today. But Bottas ahead of Ocon by half a second and Gasly by 0.7 of a second. And if you weren't with us yesterday, Zhou Guanyu going faster than Valtteri Bottas during FP2. But I'm told that the cars equal and the drivers have parity for this weekend, which is the first time since Bahrain down at Sauber. So we'll watch that battle a bit more closely, I think, given the equalness of the machines. Fernando Alonso goes fastest from Charles Leclerc, but these are all medium tyre runs at the moment, apart from Bottas and Zhou Guanyu. So are these race simulations? Are they full of fuel? Are they half tank fulls of fuel? What would you traditionally run on a Saturday?
It depends. Sometimes you'll have you won't have race fuel. You'll put like 50 kilos in. And then drop it down to 20 as you're going on a soft tire. Or you might, because the 50 kilos also allows you a lot more flexibility to do a much longer run and all these things. Or you might just start straight away with a lower fuel level and just run it through the whole session. And what do you think?
Yeah, it's usually around 30 to 50 kilos that the teams will be running in this part of the proceedings, and all of them, apart from Bottas and Zhou.
Yeah, copy. At the moment, very bad instability on the turn-ins. Okay, copy that, understood.
Sorry, before I was interrupted there by the radio, that I was going to say only Bottas and Zhou at the moment on the soft tyre. Russell goes P2 on that last lap, but yeah, disappointing message there from the driver, wasn't it? As Alpine saying, despite the work we made last night with the simulator and the feedback from the driver there, is that we're still struggling with the turn in the car.
Right, let's watch Max Verstappen for his first lap in anger while we hear from Ted.
Well, a team who had both drivers behind Max Verstappen after free practice 2 yesterday was their sister team RB, and still a bit of confidence down here in their garage. Yuki Tsunoda has been out on track for a couple of laps now. Just now, Daniel Ricciardo leaving the garage, and the message from them really overnight has just been, look, the car's fine, just polish it and send it out again. So that's why Ricciardo is happy just now to go out and not take advantage of the track running early on. But it is this weird situation, Crofty, down here, where we think the man who's about to replace Daniel Ricciardo, even for this season, Liam Lawson, is just hanging around, looking at what Daniel's doing in the car and seemingly getting to know his car crew. And yeah, he has to do that, Liam, if they decide to put him in for the US Grand Prix in Austin. Well, Daniel, if he can get that car to 4th or 3rd, will be thinking, well, I know, I'm going to hang on to this car.
Oh, it already feels better than yesterday.
That is good news for Piastri, you're right. There is Liam Lawson. To be fair, doing what he's been doing all season long as the reserve driver down there, and monitoring it in the garage in case he gets called up into action. In action, as I mentioned, Max Verstappen putting together a handy lap here.
It's been a really nice lap, Crofty, actually. He's driven really well. The car, for me, looks much better than it was yesterday. Goes fastest with that time, 9/10 ahead of Piastri, who says he's happier with the car and can feel a massive difference already. I wonder if he took Norris's setup, because Norris had a good day yesterday, right up there with Charles Leclerc, who was also always at the top of the timesheets throughout. And I just wonder, because Piastri looked a little bit lost yesterday compared to Norris, but seems to be much happier with the car. But still, that lap from Verstappen, right where you want to be placing the car. He wasn't wrestling it around at all. Hulkenberg pops up to P3. Right now, only half a second or 6/10 away. So, yeah, I'm seeing a much improved Red Bull there.
Lando Norris saying yesterday that there wasn't much more in the car that he could have got out of yesterday at all. That was about the limit, he said. Now, whether that's a limit on a Friday or a limit for the whole weekend, we shall see.
But also critically, Crofty, he was saying that the car was pretty much exactly where you want it.
Yeah.
So if you're not, he was saying, if Leclerc's lap wasn't perfect, we're in a bit of trouble here.
Everyone is just in the way, the whole lap. Cards looks better though.
Anthony, yeah, and you just have the eye, don't you? Like, you don't even need a lap time. You're just watching Verstappen and you just see it, that that car is just different and switched on, right? I mean, everyone impressive, Crofty, right?
That's why he gets paid the big bucks.
Ant's eyes. Oh.
Ant's eye, even with glasses, his eyes are even sharper.
You can see it. Any driver would be able to see that. Compared to the car yesterday, I mean, that was properly different.
But we know what they've done. They've stiffened that car up, both laterally, in the roll, but also vertically. They've dropped the car lower, stiffened the vertical springs, which increases the aero load. It does increase bouncing, which can be a bit of a problem also aerodynamically, but it seems to be working really well.
As Sergio Perez goes second fastest, and Oscar Piastri goes into the top three once again. Mentioned to Alex Albon, currently sixth fastest. Charles Leclerc into fifth, and Carlos Sainz still to do a flying lap to its fullest extremities. And George Russell has just gone quickest through the middle sector. And I'm expecting lap times to come tumbling down, because the rubber that was laid on the track yesterday, that's gone. What a shower that was last night. But with all the cars circulating at the moment, bar Valtteri Bottas, we're going to see new rubber being laid down and track evolution quite high in this session.
For anyone out there thinking, I know what will spice this race up, is a bit of rain.
Yeah.
No, you don't want rain here in this part of the world. It's an absolute showstopper if anything like last night's go by, because it was, you either get monsoon or nothing.
Yep. And what you also get, if it rains before the start of the race, as it did in 2022, is a track that takes about an hour and a half to dry.
Oh, that's deep into turn 10, isn't it? And there's the car, taken to the outside. Oh, and that actually put him off, didn't it, Gazzy? I think.
Wow. That was very, very close.
He was just. He was a bit put off by what the car was doing on the right there, the Mercedes, that Russell.
That's George Russell,
so, I mean, Russell's kind of, he's wandering around, but then he's done the right thing to get off the racetrack. But even that can just, it goes to show the focus that you have to have in the car and what you're expecting other cars to be doing. It just caught him out.
George Russell, I mentioned, fastest in the middle sector, went fourth fastest overall on his lap.
That was an amazing catch by Gasly. I mean, I looked at it, I was like, okay, that's in the wall. Because first, you cannot continue braking whilst you're completely sideways. You first need to correct the car straight and then start braking. Otherwise, you're just going to spin. And it was like right on a knife's edge.
You're on a knife edge every time you're behind the wheel here. I don't think you feel comfortable. It's a faster circuit than Monaco, but the barriers are equally as close. And as you said yesterday, Ant, they're even less forgiving because they're all concrete here.
It's a brilliant street track, it really is. And that was nicely attacked by Norris. Norris has got that style for this circuit where you're in full attack mode the whole time, but still, despite that good effort, can't beat Verstappen's lap.
Perhaps Verstappen is also the one that will start this session. They'll have adapted their usual run plan and say, listen, we're really struggling with our qualifying pace.
I need a chain of gloves for next stint. Hey, fun.
So what's happening to George here is he's sweating his hands off. and it's horrible when you have sweaty gloves and it just starts, because the glove connects really well to the steering wheel, and it's your hand inside the glove that is just like gooing and slipping around. Is horrible feeling. So that's why you'll also sometimes see under the safety car, you see drivers holding their hands up, trying to get some wind in those gloves, to cool them down. So that's why you need new gloves. Back to, who was I talking about?
I was going to say, I played golf this morning.
I was making an important point.
I was going to say, I played golf, talking to sweaty gloves. I barely had any grip after about 3 holes today. That's why my putting was so bad.
Crofty, I appreciate your golf so much, but I was making an important point.
Well, yeah, but we'd all forgotten what you were saying.
Every time I max steering lock at the edges of corners, I lose the rear. Understood.
We'll We'll go back to the important point that you were making in a minute.
remember.
I promise. Right. Just give us a pause for 2 seconds. Welcome back to Singapore. Pierre Gasly a few moments ago on a flying lap. Watch for the Mercedes on the right-hand side.
Wow. That was very, very close.
You look at it again, and it's even more impressive, that save.
Gloves for next step. Hey,
It's getting very hot in the cockpit.
Every time I max steering lock at the edges of corners, I lose the radar.
That's it.
And Max struggling with that rear instability once again as Carlos Sainz goes second fastest, and George Russell keeping his hands on the wheel and not slipping around too much. Quickest in the middle sector again.
That's a surprise, actually. This is the first time we've seen a bit of pace from this Mercedes since they arrived here. And just I say that, I've cursed it because he's had a huge snap of oversteer mid-corner in 16, and a very similar moment to what he had back in FP1 right at the start. So despite that, it's only a 10th and a half away from Verstappen. So that could have been the fastest lap there without that mistake in 16.
Nico, you were about to make a really important point, and we had to stop you because there was some team radio to play.
2 points. First of all, that the new track layout since last year I think is awesome. Without
Much
that
better,
little stadium section there is just so cool, and gives another overtaking spot and everything, which is great. And then I was going to make a point to Verstappen. Nowadays, the geometry when you go to street circuit racing, as you steer, it softens the whole front end of the car so that you get hooked up front on the front as you're turning in the mid corner, you know. And perhaps geometry-wise, Red Bull just went a bit too far there. And when he's steering max, it just goes way too soft on the rear and makes the back snap.
Oh, he just hit the inside barrier there, and he's damaged the left front. See that? And it's sparking away. That was just a misjudgment, surely.
Puncture, right?
Front left, yeah, gone. He managed to clip the wall on that was the kink before, the straight before turn 16, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In the DRS zone, zone 4.
Well, Alex Albon, as you can see, back in the garage, whilst they take the tyres off and have a look to see if there's any damage on that Williams, which has been going well, it has to be said, throughout this weekend. Upgraded Williams as well on Alex Albon's car compared to his teammate Franco Colapinto. But we'll send Ted down there and see if there is any lasting damage. And we now have 18 thousandths of a second between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris, who are separated by 59 points in the Drivers' Championship going into this race.
They seem calm enough down there, looking over that left front, don't they? But hopefully for their sake it was just a wheel that got damaged and an instant puncture. But a strange place to do it, and just goes to show one lapse of concentration here on this savage street circuit, you're going to be in the wall.
What a difficult track. You see all the steering whilst you're braking, turn in all the way to the edge of the track, you know, as close to the wall as possible. Now you've got to go left, you've got to left, so that you brake in a straight line and maximize the longitudinal grip, you know, hit that inside curb in the right place, 5 centimeters from the wall on the outside. It's such a challenge, and all the while it's just bouncing around.
And they're such massive cars as well, aren't they? 2 meters wide, 5 meters long, and threading the eye of the needle around a track like this is not to be underestimated. And is this another great lap from Leclerc coming up? He's done it all weekend so far, and he's done it once again by a 10th of a second.
But as he does that, Max Verstappen goes quickest in the first sector, and Lewis Hamilton was pretty much matching Charles Leclerc as we were watching both. Onwards he goes to the next right-hander, and it comes at you pretty relentlessly. But they used to be a little right-hand turn there. Not anymore. The drivers can go straight on the new DRS zone towards turn 16. And how's this lap going to unfold for Lewis Hamilton, who's had his successes here in Singapore over the years, and this is 350th Grand Prix start this weekend. He goes fourth fastest, less than 2 tenths separating the top 4.
First indication is that both Red Bull and Mercedes have found some pace. And we know that, I know that both of them have gone much stiffer on their cars. So maybe that's put them back in the right window.
And Max would have lost a little bit of time there as he got onto the curb, and he ended up a 10th down on Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, definitely, it's not ideal. And I like that bit of curb design, because you can go right over it like you did yesterday and you carry on, but you're obviously 4 wheels off the track. You can ride up it, and that's perfect. But if you go a bit too far and you're somewhere in the middle like he was there, features the underside of the car, and you basically have no grip momentarily on all 4 wheels. That was a bit of a strange turn in there for Russell. Too aggressive, the car, in its behaviour, and not too stable on the rear, where it caught out the Alpine and Gasly earlier on. But a personal best, despite that, through Sector 1.
Just watching George Russell, that was
I think he hit the wall.
Did he hit the wall?
Yeah, left rear just clocked the wall there.
It could be right. I just felt that when turning, it was jagged. It wasn't fluid. It was jagged. It was corners coming up, turn, and an immediate, almost to like a right angle, rather than a nice fluid curve round.
It's what Verstappen was talking about earlier on as well. When he's using the maximum steering angle that he's going to use on turning, the rear's suddenly not there for him. So they're now getting to the point where they've had the best juice from the tyre, those mediums. And yeah, let's keep an eye on that left side of the wall. Does he hit it? Maybe not.
That looked very strange, didn't it?
Yeah, if it was a lock-up or he hit it, and if he hit it, maybe it was on the rear, but he has come back into the pits.
No, it wasn't. He didn't hit the wall. It's just the way the car sort of moved around under braking. It does. Maybe on the last couple of downshifts, it just locked the rear momentarily, and that's all it takes. You're right on that cusp of adhesion, and if you've just got one downshift to descend, the car just... You know what? I love this track. I love it. You really get to see how difficult it is for the drivers.
Savage beauty, I think we'll call this. In Singapore. Ted Cran, it's down to you.
Dan at Williams, an update on Albon's car. So the front looks fine. They're actually making a setup change to the rear to stop the sideways moment Albon had, which actually led to the clonk against the wall and the puncture. So that's what's going on the back of his car. Obviously, that's the set of tyres down, so Albon will be stuck in the garage now before they put the soft tyres on. So he'll lose a bit of laps just by dint of not being able to carry on that medium set of tyres. But Anthony, this is the session you don't want to crash in, isn't it? That's obvious, but how much is that still in the back of the driver's mind once you get to the end of free practice 3, the last session you want to crash in, apart from qualifying, of course, and the race, which would mean you don't score any points, is free practice 3. Are you still thinking about that, or are you just giving it everything?
So this track, you don't think about crashing so muit's because usually you don't crash here. I would say you would be thinking about that more in somewhere like Baku, because it's just some harder turns in there in those corners. Here you're fine. You can pretty much attack and not be too worried about it.
Charles Leclerc from Max Verstappen by a 1/10 of a second. Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton 3rd and 4th, all within 2/10 of Charles Leclerc. Everyone's got a time on the board, 2 seconds between Leclerc to Joe. And still on the medium tyres here with Carlos Sainz, last year's race winner. A terrific end to the race it was too, as Carlos Sainz helped Lando Norris to help himself and not help George Russell and Lewis Hamilton, who were the fastest cars at that stage, but they just couldn't get past.
Yeah, I just want to contradict Ted a bit too much there. I don't want to take the air out of his comment of drivers needing to be careful not to crash. I mean, of course, he has a point. I think
it's probably more because Ted sees it from the team's point of view.
Of course,
it's definitely the teams are there on tenterhooks thinking, I don't want the driver to crash, because they're up against it so much in that time frame to get the car repaired.
You know, when you used to train, when you were driving, and you'd go on the treadmill and you do uphill walking at a really fast pace of knots, and you play 7 hands of poker while you were doing that.
You remember that?
Yeah, I know.
That was because I had to stop cycling to lose the leg muscles. But that was another kilo.
But I was so impressed by not just your uphill walking pace, because it was pretty fast, but the mental pressure you were putting yourself on by playing 7 hands of poker. When you came to races like this, where mental fatigue can set in because of the conditions, is that what you were training for at that moment?
The poker got me the win at this track. It just made that difference.
It was like 4 races. or a royal flush.
But this is very hard then because the race is also very long.
Yeah.
Because unlike Monaco, where the race distance is shortened, here it still is 300 kilometers, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
So the race time is usually very long here. It's 80% humidity. You're in a sauna in the car, yeah? And we lose up to 8 pounds of body weight in 2 hours. Can you imagine losing 8 pounds from sweating in 2 hours?
I can only dream of that,
I mean, it's really like, it's torture in the car.
But it's also, it's having to concentrate for 2 hours. I mean, and you struggle for 2 minutes sometimes. Pardon? Exactly.
Yeah, no, and then the sweat starts dripping in your eyes, you know, and it's just like, and your head is pounding from the heat. The concentration in the end can be very difficult, yeah.
Yeah, we should be a little under 2 hours, assuming we don't get many safety car laps here. Now they've taken out the 4 corners. When we used to go in front of the grandstand, it has actually helped reduce the time length of this race, but it is still the most atrocious conditions. Carlos Sainz has just put that lap in to go within a 1/10 of a second of his teammate Charles Leclerc. But we are still yet to see the top 6 put in a lap on the soft compound tyre. In fact, the best of the soft runners is Franco Colapinto. Valtteri Bottas and Zhou Guanyu have also put the soft tyres on. They are the only 3 that have run it so far. We've got just 23.5 minutes to go of this session, but they want to leave those soft tyre runs until as late as they can, because that'll be as near to they can the conditions for qualifying.
That gap for Verstappen-Perez is also more normalized again, which really again indicates that maybe they really found something with Verstappen's car.
Sergio Perez, who out-qualified, of course, Max Verstappen at the last race in Baku. So we've got just over 22 minutes to go of this final practice session. Let's take a trip down to the pit wall, shall we? Lauren Mekis is the team boss down at RB, watching so far Daniel Ricciardo 8th fastest and Yuki Tsunoda 14th fastest. But forget the times for a moment. What did you change overnight, Lauren, and is it working?
Look, only the lap time will say if it's working. But as we said yesterday, you know, it's a track where you have to be a bit aggressive because the track conditions are changing quite often. There's been a massive amount of rain coming overnight, which gave us a bit of a track reset. So we are trying to adapt to that with both cars. So trying to find our way around on the medium tires, and then it will be all about switching focus to qualifying with a soft for everyone. You can see probably already 4 or 5 cars going out there with their soft, and will be going out shortly as well.
Laurent, it's Anthony here. So we've seen some of the bigger teams like Red Bull, Mercedes make some progress since yesterday's performance, where you were quicker than both of those teams. Who are you fighting here, do you think?
Well, you know, we think the top 4 teams, it's always going to be difficult to get them now. So Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes, McLaren is going to be tough. Of course, Mercedes seemed a little bit more in reach yesterday, but we are under no illusion that they are going to be back up. After these 4 top teams, we see Williams very fast this weekend. So we think, you know, the fight for the last slots in the top 10 for us are going to be probably with Williams.
So you think top 4 teams too far ahead, but points are possible on that one. What sort of gains are we expecting from medium tyre to soft tyre as well when we get to these qualifying simulations? What's your tyre data telling you?
Well, you know, I think everybody will give preference to the qualifying. I think if you look at the tire usage of the guys so far, most of us have kept 5 softs for quali. So it's one less tires for tomorrow. But I think we are all trying to get as many softs as we can for quali, because it's a track where you want to start at the front, you want the free air. So, you know, it's going to be all about, you know, forget tire degradations today and try to extract everything on the single lap and try to deal with it tomorrow.
We'll talk to you tomorrow about that one. Laurent, thank you ever so much indeed. George Russell crosses the line and goes 1.4 seconds clear of Charles Leclerc. And that's a stonking tyre delta between the medium and the soft for George Russell.
Yeah, I mean, not just tyre delta, you can always say have engine modes as well, and obviously fuel load. But on top of all of that, it was a really good lap by Russell, and that was a near moment there for Albon, wasn't it? You go right, the other driver goes to the right as well, and yeah, the driver in front is just trying to give the racing line to Albon, but that certainly caught him out.
Yeah, Charles Leclerc, well, put it this way, Alex Albon was putting a lot of trust in Charles Leclerc, and rightly so, but he finishes in second place, a second behind George Russell. Here's Oscar Piastri, last time race winner in Baku. He goes second, 3/10 behind George Russell. Lewis Hamilton comes tearing around the final corner.
Horrible, horrible lap for Lewis. Not in terms, I don't know if in terms of driving, but in terms of lap time, they're so far off George.
Yeah, we saw this
horribly far off.
We saw this yesterday, didn't we, Nico, between Lando and Oscar Piastri. A huge divide between the two drivers. It's one of this circuit is a driver's track, and we can see a big disparity between the two drivers. If one driver just had a tiny mistake here or there, you're completely out of the window.
Yeah, but with Lewis's case, it's really around the whole lap. He's lost just consistently through the whole lap.
Ted Kravitz, down to you.
We're going to get an answer as to whether Max Verstappen and Red Bull have turned around their car setup, because he's out on the soft tyre. Brand new set of soft tyres, just starting a lap. Is that him? I can see on a monitor across the pit lane.
No, that is,
or is that Sergio Perez finishing his lap? Still on the medium tyre, I think Checo is. Yeah. So yeah, let's get on Max on his out lap, and then we're about to get some answers. Interesting stuff from Laura McKee's telling you there, Crofty. I think we're talking about Williams being the sort of challenge for them. What about Aston Martin and Haas? Because they're thinking with the improvements they hope they've made overnight, that they're going to be up there trying to get that extra position, 9 and 10, behind the top 4 teams.
Thanks ever so much indeed, Ted. Some harem-scarum moments for Oscar Piastri, and then we see Alex Albon behind Charles Leclerc once more. Oh, there's blue flag.
And you don't see, but Ant and myself, we're jumping around in the commentary booth, like putting our hands in front of our eyes, because both Piastri going over the curb there almost had a big shunt, and also Albon with the Ferrari, if I'm not mistaken, that was also very close to being a big shunt.
Right, talking of jumping around in the commentary box, in the background there is Max Verstappen, who might be about to start a flying lap on the soft compound tyre. Take it away, Nico Rosberg.
Okay, here we go. So now DRS, of course, you got to bring it back up before braking. 50 meters braking, got to hit that inside curve perfectly and stay within the white line there. Roll into this corner, straighten your steering wheel so you can get that traction down flat out. Now all the way left, so you're a little bit straight with a smaller angle there. Deep braking, 5th gear, really carrying the speed all the way to the wall there on the left-hand side. Now it's important to drive in a very smooth way through this corner. Your minimum steering, then to the right, straight line the braking again, deep at 80 meters. Ooh, we missed that inside by like 30 centimeters, but nailed the outside. Deep braking here. Nailed the inside there again, straight steering wheel, put the traction down, then quickly back to the right to have a big angle turning in there, carrying the speed. A little bit of understeer mid-corner, then got a snap. Now here's difficult, huh? You gotta brake so deep, just carry that speed in. Car looked very settled there. And here's just really like, I don't know, magically fighting your way through there. Now brake softly to go right to open up this corner. Missed the apex there by 30 centimeters. Bit of traction. You can see the rear tire is now starting to overheat, so you start getting a bit of a loose rear. Braking deep there. Again, missed the apex by like 10 centimeters, but okay, use the track. You can see the rear moving around a little bit more now. Now again, like minimum steering inputs. Now nail this braking here. Around, it will be again around 70 meters. Oh, normally others are using that curb. He maybe missed it or what, I don't know. Looked pretty good, and now it's just like maximum attack through here. Again, missed the apex. Ooh, lost time there. He couldn't commit as much as he wanted to, and 4/10 off Russell. So this is a bit of a big setback actually for them, because we do expect Leclerc and Norris to be quicker than Russell.
Yeah, flying on the medium tyres and trying to replicate that on the soft. It just did not work for Max Verstappen in terms of the fastest time, and that was way closer than Franco Colapinto really wanted on his lap. Goes 5th fastest eventually, now on board with Lando Norris.
Yeah, this is a lap we've all been waiting to see, isn't it, from Lando Norris as he exits turn 9. The car's nicely poised there. As Nico said, carry big speed into turn 10, but then compromise the exit to get yourself back over to the left. Jumps over the curb. He does love a good...
Very surprised more people are on the soft already. Yeah, Max is out there now. He's just done a 30.5.
Yeah, they've been out there pretty early, haven't they, Mercedes? Now they're the ones to catch for everyone else, as Lando's 3.5 tenths up pretty much before turn 14. And he's got a car in front of him. Is it going to get out of the way before 16? Yes, it will. And what does he do with this curve? Right over it. That's the Lando Norris style that we've all grown to love. Into the last two corners we go to the heli shot. Can't get quite a good view there, but yeah, he does go fastest on the first try. Wow. 29.6. Last year's pole position was a 30.9.
I mean, we were beating it yesterday, but we're beating it by some margin now. 1:29.6 for Lando Norris, and yeah, not surprisingly, that's the new lap record here at the Marina Bay circuit. And he's just, against George Russell, making gains all the way through the lap.
That car, I mean, combined with the driver's style as well, is loving those curbs.
Yeah.
I don't think the Red Bull can do that. I don't know whether it was intentional from Max, whether he was actually making mistakes and running wide, like you said at the time, Nico, but I'm not sure if Lando got in that Red Bull, he could do what he's doing right now.
Yeah, it's possible, but you could just see, I mean, we had the perfect comparison there, yeah? So first of all, that front end is just hooked up on Lando's car. He just puts it wherever he wants to. And in doing that, and even hitting massive curbs, the rear is just on rails. So it's like both the front and the rear just working so much better than Max Verstappen's car there.
Yeah, Red Bull seem to have a trade-off, don't they? That if we make it soft to ride the curbs, then we lose what we needed, the stiffness for the aerodynamic platform.
Yep.
And then McLaren seems to be able to have the softness over the curbs and that aerodynamic platform as well. Pit stop practice down at Red Bull as Perez comes in.
It's even for the corners where there's no curbs, yeah, that we saw the exact same thing. And also it looked like the Red Bull was overheating the rear tires much more, because as you're going through the lap, Max's car started getting more and more nervous. So it's really quite a big difference there.
Tsunoda crosses the line, 7th fastest, 1.5 seconds behind Lando Norris. For Yuki Tsunoda, maybe this is the year that he comes to Singapore and finishes and gets points. Maybe to end the DNF run for the last 2 races, but it's a race that he's never finished at before. But I do think, I tend to agree with Lauren Mekies, that points are up for grabs for RB this weekend. 7th fastest currently for Fernando Alonso. Here is his teammate Lance Stroll, who at this corner last year ended his qualifying at the end of Q1, pushing really hard to try and make it out of Q1. Goes 12th fastest overall.
2 seconds away. 2 seconds. I mean, when you think that car started last year, 2nd best, it really has been a downfall since then. But yeah, maybe a track that's not really, the car's not dialed in. But this is the car I want to see, the Ferrari. They're down there at the moment in P10, 11. They had been on the medium tyre up until this point. We got a yellow flag in sector 1 and 2.
Not sure. Can't see who's gone particularly slowly and gone off in that first sector.
It's clear now, so that gives Sainz and Leclerc, who's behind Sainz on track. As we look at the number 55 car, who was on pole position here last year, wind it up before the final 2 corners. It's critical with the prep laps we talked about, and it's going to be even more critical when it gets darker later on. The track temp starts to fall slightly.
It's fallen 2 degrees from the start of this session. Right, so take a closer look then, Anthony.
Yeah, so the last ones to go, aren't they, of the top 4 teams, Ferrari. So the track should be at its best. Through 1 he goes, and 2. The car nicely positioned to open up turn 3, and that's really nice and smooth from Sainz there. Bring the car to the left-hand side to open up turn 5. Once again, pretty good stability from the rear end of that Ferrari, and he could just seem to place it wherever he wanted. What's it going to be as he gets close to the end of sector 1? Oh, 3 tenths down already on Lando Norris's time, and a bit squirrely on the rear there, just over that curb. Turn 8, through he goes. It's hard to get from the heli shot a true indication of the balance of the car there, but through 9 and towards turn 10 he comes. Straight line the braking for that one. Bring the car to the left. And then how much curves he take? Nothing at all through turn 11. Now through 12, square it up. under the braking into 13. Runs a little bit wide there, similar to Max's lap where he just missed a little bit of the apex curb, and then lines it up. Yeah, nearly 9 tenths down there before the end of sector 2. I'm surprised by this lap and the rear moving around as well. Again, in a similar way to how the Red Bull behaved for Max's lap. The car, to me, if anything, looks a bit like it's on the heavy side. We don't know the fuel, but he's able to take a bit of curb in 16 before 17, and it's not going to be a great lap, but two personal bests at this point for Sainz, and he ends the lap P5 behind Verstappen.
Meanwhile, his teammate Charles Leclerc had dropped 4 seconds in the first sector. Did he have a little off? George Russell certainly did. Down at turn 7, there's a nice escape road for him to plough on into. I'm not sure if Charles Leclerc did make a mistake or not, but it could be Nico Rosberg. He needs a second warm-up lap before he starts his flying lap.
Yeah, which would be really suboptimal.
Well, no, I went straight on, but otherwise I'm okay.
Yeah, I found the escape road. It's all good. Nothing to see here. Right, we'll see what happens with Charles Leclerc as he makes his way towards the start-finish straight now. Ahead of him, Oscar Piastri and Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, Hamilton's going for another one here. After a couple of laps of cooling the tyres down, he's on it again, and I think that's what Russell was up to as well before he went off in turn 7. So these tyres, the soft tyres, we heard it yesterday. I think it was Laurent McKee saying it's going to be a one-lap tyre when it really comes to it in qualifying, and I think that's what we're seeing unfold now. Probably is what called out Russell. So will it catch Lewis out into that same corner? Here we go. Yeah, so already half a second down. The tyres don't have the same life in them as they had yesterday. As Albon improves to P7, just on the left-hand side, you can see there.
Charles Leclerc has set a personal best for the first sector, but it's 3 tenths down on what Lando Norris managed. So it's a flying lap, but it's not flying enough, Nico.
Charles Leclerc, you were saying 3 tenths down. Yeah, so Ferrari looks a little bit off. I mean, Sainz looked really not good on that car. And it's also, it accumulates, yeah? As soon as you have a bit of a snappy rear, when you have one snap, you lift those surface temperatures and they kind of remain. And that puts you in another snap. So it accumulates through, the problem accumulates through the lap. And that's why you're seeing these big differences also in lap time then between someone like Norris and Verstappen, which is 9 tenths of a second.
We've got cameras on board with Charles Leclerc, and we're watching off board with George Russell as Esteban Ocon goes 16th fastest. We wait to see soft tyre runs from Perez and from Gasly. Hamilton crosses the line, stays 6th fastest. Charles Leclerc around the last couple of corners now goes 5th fastest behind Max Verstappen and almost a second off the pace. Ted, down to you.
What's happened to Leclerc's pace? Well, we'll find out when qualifying begins. Down at Red Bull, I was expecting to see when Max Verstappen came back into the pits after some deliberations with GP, his engineer, some changes to the Red Bull. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. They've just kept the tyres in the blankets, polished up the car. I think they're going to send it again. Are they wise to what really did for them in Baku, Crofty, by changing the car too much between free practice 3 and qualifying? Well, we'll get that information during qualifying, I guess. But yeah, Max just going out for another run now. Checo Perez should be winding up for a hot lap now on brand new soft tyres.
He is. He absolutely is, Ted, taking the right-hander by the entrance to the F1 paddock and accelerating to the fastest part of the track along Raffles Boulevard. And he's half a second down by the time he makes the left-hand turn at turn 7.
Wow, so much time to lose in one sector with only 4 places on the track, really, where you can make or lose lap time. Now we're into the second sector, where there are 6 places, pretty much, where you can make or lose lap time. So a longer sector, a more important sector than sector 1. So how's the Red Bull and Perez going to get on through here? Here we go into turn 13. They've still got a bit of Flovis paint going on, haven't they, on the front wing there?
Yeah, let's focus on driving instead of focusing about scrub and whatsoever. And to be honest, about feeling also, because the feeling is we are very slow.
Wow, that's a completely different story from where we thought they were yesterday in both sessions.
So is it?
Yeah, but
You wonder, have they just chased the track a little bit rather than waiting for it to come back to them in qualifying?
Yeah, but they tried a very different procedure also now in the most important moment of practice, and Perez is nowhere with that Red Bull. Can you believe he is 15th in a Red Bull?
Well,
15th.
his teammate
and
was
there was no
yesterday.
mistake. There was no mistake on the lap.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness.
But his teammate was yesterday,
Yeah.
so I can't believe it, given what we saw on the track yesterday.
So maybe they tried to do one extreme setup now with Max's car and kept Perez in the same place or something. So, which that would be very helpful for them then, because they would have then learned quite a lot.
Yeah.
But with Leclerc, they tried to change procedure now, so they sent him out to scrub the set on the first lap, do a slow lap, and now he's lost his way also as a result, you know, because then of course the tires are in a completely different window and everything. So that was really not very helpful that Ferrari put their lead driver to experiment on such a different tire running procedure.
Because he did that extra lap.
Well, you don't know, but it could be, of course, yeah, because it puts the tires into a very different situation.
You compare their sectors briefly just down there. The two Ferrari drivers. A tyre pressure adjustment going on as the car ticks over. They've made the front flap adjustment on the front wing.
Right.
So I'm guessing they're going to dial a bit of front wing out of that and then send it out just to get an idea of balance for the soft tyre for a longer run, perhaps.
Nico Rosberg, thank you very much for your company. Before you go, who's looking good, who's not?
There's only one person looking good, actually. Well, there's Lando, who's in a league of his own, who's driving phenomenally, and his car is just, or the way he's driving his car puts it on rails. And then the other surprise this morning has been George Russell, who's extracted the maximum from his Mercedes. So I would mention those two, and that's it. There's no one else.
Thank you very much indeed. Nico is now off to interview Toto, which is something I can't wait to see for later as well. Thanks, Mr. Rosberg.
Yeah, I totally agree with that as well from Nico. It's just, yeah, Lando, that lap from Lando. He'll be hoping he can just have a carbon copy of that one. Just copy paste. I just want to do that in Q3 when it really matters. And I mean, saying that is one thing.
Yeah, I was going to say,
yeah.
In your experience, how many cut and paste laps did you have? Where you went, that was brilliant, and I just want to do that again in qualifying.
Actually, quite a few, but there were moments that got away from you as well, where you think it's feeling good, I definitely can work on that and improve even more. And then when it comes to crunch time, it just doesn't work out. But yeah, maybe 50-50, I'd say. It's just it's the good thing is, like, the F1 drivers are so good at getting their head into the right space before they open a lap. But this track is a real different. It's a different beast altogether.
We saw Max go onto the curb in slower motion. Yeah, you kind of just have to live with it, because trying to bail out once you know you're heading for that curb is going to lead you to a concrete barrier either side of the track.
You're talking millimeters, Crofty, there between the curb catching the car and riding up the curb and it just holding it in position, or go a little bit over like he did, and then suddenly it pushes the car over the top of the crest of the curb, and then you're beached momentarily. And it's just those margins that you're gambling with the whole time in qualifying on a track like this.
Interesting. 0.4 of a second in the low-speed corners. Colapinto faster than his teammate Alex Albon. There's 4/100ths of a second between the two drivers over the course of their whole lap.
He's had a really good session to be as close as he is to Albon. Right there, P8, P9 between them. I think that's remarkable stuff that he's done, because Albon on this track is pretty special as well, and suits his style, as Charles Leclerc now, with 1 minute remaining, he's pushing again with the DRS open. It's a sure sign that he's made a balance adjustment, so not for getting their eye in for what could potentially happen on a long run. This is just maybe he had a bit, well, not enough front end into it. That I saw the tool go onto the front wing, so they've made a balance adjustment for another attack lap to see if he's any happier with it.
So obviously more fuel has burnt out, but the tyres have done an extra push lap.
And they bled, I'm sure they bled pressure out of the tyres as well, so maybe they just had the tyre overheated because it was too hot.
Would the tyre have too much pressure?
Yeah, that's what will make it too hot.
Yeah.
Because as air expands, obviously, with temperature, so if you've put too much pressure, it's been a mistake, then that can definitely rob you some grip. So
which would be an easy mistake to rectify for qualifying, and therefore Charles Leclerc will be happier with that than if it was something more fundamental. Onto the Esplanade Bridge we go. It didn't want to turn in, did it?
He's lost the. This is the problem. You've made a setup change to the car, but your parameters haven't changed, haven't stayed the same.
Yeah.
You're moving goalposts around, and now he's dropped another 2/10 compared to where he was last time around on his last push lap there.
Come in, Ted Kravitz.
Well, just completing the picture as we go into qualifying, Crofty. Everybody's left the pits now to go and do the practice starts on the grid with a bit of information on Lewis Hamilton. So we came into today saying at this pace we're not going to be even in the top 10 challenging in Q3. It's better than yesterday, but it's not as good as George Russell. He's not as happy as his teammate is down at Mercedes with his car is Lewis Hamilton. So yeah, some more work to do inside the garage before qualifying to get the pace up. It's better than yesterday, P7. At this pace he will be in in Q3, Crofty, but maybe not too high up it.
Yeah, 1.2 seconds off the pace. Lewis Hamilton is 7th fastest, but 1.5 seconds off the pace. Nico Hülkenberg in 12th. It's really tight in that little bit. So tight.
Good morning, everyone. 1 hour of 4:53 coming to go another round.